Welcome back. You're watching Corporate Corridor, and the focus we're actually discussing the International Monetary Fund, the additional loan package coming in for Pakistan, and also the conditions imposed by the International Monetary Fund. And we're talking to Mr. Nadeem Naqvi, financial analyst, and Syed Javed Hasan, CEO, IGI Investment Bank. And before going on to break, we were talking about the different things that obviously the imposition of conditions by the IMF as well. Now, inflation in Pakistan has been generally high. Yes, it has eased down in recent months, but State Bank's monetary policy, which obviously they just announced a rate cut of 1%. The business community did not like that. ICCI, LCCI, they all opposed this 1% cut. Is that cut sufficient to revive the overall slowing economy?
It's not sufficient to revive the economy, but I think it is necessary to lay the foundation of a sustainable revival 6 months, 12 months down the line. Because you see, monetary policy is one element of your overall macroeconomic policy. Monetary policy by itself cannot either ignite or destroy the economy unless it is done in a very callous manner. Monetary policy is really a craft. There's no art or science in it. You have to look at the dynamic evolving situation, and I think in that context, this was a very balanced monetary policy statement and the decision. I think some of the structural decisions that were also taken in this monetary policy regarding creating a band for overnight rates, through which the monetary channel, the mechanism of changing inflationary expectations. This is what the central bank...
To keep a proper check on liquidity in the market.
It's two to three things, because if you take a look at what is the central bank's role, it is to ensure that the price stability in the economy is maintained. It is to attempt to ensure that the foreign exchange reserves are stable, and therefore the foreign exchange rate itself is stable. And third is to ensure that there's a conducive financial sector, financial environment, monetary environment for sustainable growth. Now, some of them can be conflicting, these goals. But I think in the current situation where we are fighting in like an emergency situation, because the economy was on the brink of collapse in October only, I think to reduce interest rates very dramatically now would have been a folly, because we still don't know the pressures on core inflation. One of the problems in Pakistan is that the inflation rate is the methodology of indexing inflation is, in my view, not very correct, because it's a 15-month rolling average. So what we are seeing now is fall coming in, but we are not taking into account today the pressures that may be building up. So one has to be very careful. So all in all, I think that the policy was balanced, and we will see gradual reduction in interest rates. I think industry has to be a little patient, but industry should not be blaming the central bank for it. Industry should be actually looking to the government to reduce its borrowing requirement that is crowding out the private sector.
And that would have been my next question, Mr. Javed. Government borrowing, the International Monetary Fund has also asked the government to keep a check as far as the high borrowing from the central bank is concerned. They have retired some of the amount as well in the past. So how is this trend going to slow down? Because government borrowing, that you can't really blame the government even for, as far as going up to the central bank and borrowing money is concerned.
I think there are two parts to this question. I mean, given a general slowdown in the economy and general slowdown globally, there's some amount of government spending that is necessary. If you actually cut down on government spending too dramatically, that could also have an adverse effect. The critical thing is that this government spending should be in developmental expenditure. It should be in long-term growth parts of the economy rather than current expenditure. Now it's really question mark whether it's on current expenditure or long-term developmental expenditure that is taking place. Some estimates seem to suggest that it's much more in current expenditure. That would be a pity, and that's the kind of spending that IMF is looking at. If anything, IMF is quite keen that the government redirects its spending towards the developmental expenditure, and that's critically important for poverty alleviation. So really, in terms of government spending, there are two parts to it. As I said, it's not simply a question of spending overall, magnitude of spending, but where the spending is being directed. If it's towards developmental expenditure, that would have a much less inflationary impact. the current expenditure leads to inflationary impact, which in the current environment we are trying to battle. So really, I think what the government needs to show is a focus in bringing down current expenditure. There are no clear signs of it. Now, hopefully, going forward in the next few months, we will see a dramatic cutting down in current expenditure. If we see that, that will help in also curtailing inflation. If we see private sector borrowing has significantly come down. If anything, it's in decline year on year. So we need to see the similar cut down in current government spending, and that should help considerably in terms of inflationary pressures. Once we see that in a sustained way, we should effectively see inflation levels coming down. I don't know if it's going to be below the 10% level, single digit, which the government had been targeting. If we come near it, we should see interest rates, discount rates coming close to this single digit level. If that happens, we have a long-term growth possibility.
Javed, Hasan, Mr. Nadeem Naqvi, thank you so much for taking time out for us and being a part of our program. We spoke to, obviously, Mr. Nadeem Naqvi, financial analyst, and Syed Javed Hasan, CEO for IGI Investment Bank, talking about the International Monetary Fund, the overall economy, where we stand. How long is Pakistan going to be dependent on foreign fund houses to rescue Pakistan from its ailing problems? It's about all the time we have for this show. Feel free to write to us. Our email address is corporatecorridor@dawnnews.tv. That's corporatecorridor@dawnnews.tv. For the timing, from me, Taha Siddiqui, and the rest of the CC team, take care and have a good day.